Hey guys, welcome to another episode on Discover Her. Welcome back. If you're new here, welcome to the Discover Her Girly Pops. And if you're existing and you're coming back to this podcast, then welcome. It's nice to see everyone today, honestly. Just before we actually get started, my week has been very, I would say good, because I'm grateful for everything, but it's been very exposing. And I'm saying that because God has been showing me so many things about me that I didn't even know were there. And I think he's been showing me this because I've been praying for God to reveal to me certain parts of me which don't reflect his character, and certain parts of me which are hindering growth and all of that stuff. And the way he's been revealing it to me has been very personal, but at the same time I'm very happy. It's one of them ones where the things that he's been revealing to me, I'm very happy I knew them and I know them now, because the things that he's been showing me, I know are going to impact my career, are going to impact my relationships, are going to impact my friendships. So I'm so happy that God has been revealing to me all of these things, because now at least I know what to work on. At least I know what I need to pray on, because it's like, these are things I would have not known even if I did any self-reflection or anything like that. I would have not known until I was put into a position where that trait was brought out, until I was put in a situation where that character was being portrayed, So yeah, that's how my week has been. It's been very great in that sense, but obviously it goes without saying that every week is a busy week. You gotta get your money, so working on all of that. And I hope you've had an amazing week. I don't know about you where you currently are, but right now it is cold. Like the UK right now, it is freezing, but then that means that it's getting closer to spring, so it's going to be a lot more sunnier. So yeah, funny enough, yesterday I went to a youth day with one of my friends, and I found myself having a conversation with one of my old friends and some new lady that I just met. And we went on to the conversation about our mental states, and we were just talking about past experiences and our own personal experiences currently, right? And I felt so, do you know when you feel so comforted? And I felt so comforted listening to their experiences, because they were going through something that I went through then. So I was happy because I've been through that, and I was able to give them advice that I wish I heard when I was in the state they were in. And it's also hearing the experiences helped me to be a lot more grateful, because it showed me that, listen, you're not where you used to be. Because I think when a lot of things are changing and God is blessing you and everything in your life is working out together, sometimes you can forget the little blessings. You can forget the places that God has taken you away from. So being in that specific moment, listening to where my friend is mentally, I was just like, damn, because I was once there too, but it's not something that I knew until she told me that, oh yeah, I'm like feeling like this. And I felt so grateful, because the things that I used to pray for, even though God has answered so many things, I've also forgotten so many things that God has answered prayers for. So I was just so grateful, because I was just like, okay, cool. Each prayer that I prayed, I'm currently living in an answered prayer. And there's somebody who sometimes, I don't know if you feel like this as well, but sometimes I can just get to a point where it's like, I'm not grateful enough because I want something more. Like I'm always looking for the next, not realizing that where I am right now is the next. Like 3 years old me, like 3 years past old me, or like 3 years ago Pauline, she would have been looking at me right now. She would be thinking, wow, that's what you prayed for and a lot more. So yeah, it's those type of conversations that have me thinking like, God answers your prayers so well in ways that you didn't even think that he could answer them. Like, and it just leaves you thinking, wow, so if he's able to answer my prayer then, what makes me think that he won't answer any prayer that I pray right now? So yesterday, when I tell you that God has been so good, he's always good. And even in seasons where I feel like I'm being battered down, I'm still grateful, because I know that every lesson has every season has a lesson. So anytime I'm faced with any challenge, I know there's going to be a lesson after it. And I'm saying this and it sounds like so good to say. It sounds like woohoo, every season has a lesson. But when you're in a season where you're learning different lessons, where you're being stretched, where you're being challenged, of course you're not going to feel like that. You're not going to feel like, woohoo, I'm faced by a struggle, I have another problem, which means another lesson. You're not going to feel like that. But I'm only saying that because the struggles and the things I've been through previously are things I don't struggle with now. So I've come to acknowledge that the things I did go through were great for me, because I got to learn a lot about myself. I got to learn about the world and other people and my family and God himself. But I'm only able to say that because I am out of there. So while you're in your whenever you're in a problem, or you find yourself in a season where you're being challenged, when you feel like you're in a season where you're literally being brought down, like it's so heavy on you, don't feel bad for getting exhausted in a season like that, because people are only able to tell you that every season is a learning season, every season is a going up season once they make it out. When you're in that actual season, you're gonna feel drained, you're gonna feel tired, you're gonna want to give up, and that's absolutely fine. So find comfort in knowing that yes, you might be in a season where you feel drained, and that's absolutely fine. It's part of the process. But I promise you that when you get out of that season, when you get out of that place that you currently are, you will understand that every season, everything that you ever go through is a lesson. You learn from it. The only way up, I saw a quote the other day which said that when I get pushed down to the floor, or when I think it says something like that, when I get thrown down to the floor, I'm happy because I know the only way is up. So let that be comfort to you, that whatever season that you're in, whether that be isolation season, whether you feel defeated, exhausted, remember that as long as God is with you, because he is with you, because he said that he will never leave you nor forsake you, as long as that he's with you, the only way from that is up, right? So as I was saying, so I was speaking to my two friends, and I really was reflecting on a very dark season of my life. I think it was probably like 2 or 3 years ago, and I say that it was a very dark season in my life because even for myself, I didn't see what life was going to be past that season. It was like, this is my season, and then there's no vision, like I can't see past that. And that season of my life, the best way I'd probably describe it was a very gloomy season. I always say that especially with my story, when I talk about it, I always say that the best way to explain the effects of that sexual abuse is by saying that it felt like I had a dark cloud over my head, that even the brightest summer day, that even if it was the sunniest, it was the happiest day, that my world looked dark. And it wasn't something that it was a mental thing, but it was so bad that it got to a point where it felt physical. Like the world looked like it was sunny, but it was on low exposure. You know when you take a video and then you put it on low exposure, like you can tell it's bright, but no, you can also tell that it's dark. So I was reminded of being in that season, and it was so bad for me because from a very young age I was very ambitious, and I think it's because I knew I had a passion for a lot of things, and I was also really good at a lot of things. So being in a season like that not only affected so many other aspects of my life, like my friendships, my happiness, and my well-being in general, but one part that it really affected the most was the career path for me. And I know I was kind of young, but I was still passionate. I wanted to be a writer, I wanted to do all of these things, and being in that foggy, gloomy season, it felt like I couldn't be any of those things. I felt like I was going to be stuck there forever. I felt like I was never going to find hope past the situation that I was in, right? So and I remember people would give me advice, such as they would say something like, to try get me out of that state. They will say things like, you've got a bright future for yourself. You've got your family depending on you. You've got your mum, your sisters, and all of that stuff. And what people don't realize with advice like this, when you're in such a gloomy state, when you're in such a foggy state, it gets to a point where it's like, I don't care that anyone is depending on me. I don't care that my family needs me. I don't care. It gets to a point where you are so exhausted with life itself that it's like, okay, cool, so what, they need me, what's that got to do with me? And I think if I could definitely go back to this season of my life, or if you're currently in this season of your life as well, one advice that I would give to you is that once you get out of that foggy state, once you get out of that gloomy mindset or gloomy state that you're currently in, that I was in as well, everything around you will start to align itself again. And I'm not saying that things will all of a sudden magically start to fall into place, but what I'm saying is that once that foggy state is removed, you may not have everything together, but at least you can see, you can have more vision, you can have motivation to do stuff, because that foggy state literally clouds up so many areas of your life that you don't even see past that current state that you're in. And it's only, funny enough, it's only when I had managed to come out of that gloomy, dark state that I was in. Let me tell you how this story went, actually. It was a very weird moment in my life. It was more magical, it was so miraculous, because I was just like, everything happened so quick. So one day I remember I was walking to somewhere. I think I was going either from school or somewhere, and then I realized, wait a minute, I've never looked up at the sky, to the point where it was, I know it sounds like, what do you mean you never looked up at the sky? I mean, like, I was walking home, but because so many years of my childhood I had spent walking down like this, facing the floor, I don't think I'd ever looked up at the sky. And it's this moment that I was like, oh my goodness, that's what the sky looks up like. And the way houses in London are, when you look up, you can say, okay, cool, this house looks like this house looks like that. I didn't even have a clue that any of those houses look like that, and had been walking down that path for a very long time. And why this part of my life marked a very significant, I guess, moment for me, was that a couple of years later, when I had gotten out of that gloomy state, when I had when that dark cloud had gotten away from my head and I could see the beauty in life, I come to realize, I connected the dots. I was like, damn, you have been living like this, you've been walking around with this dark grey cloud, right? And I'm only saying that to you because it's like, once I really believe that I was only able to know that I was in the dark state before when I had come out. Because when I was in that foggy, cloudy, gloomy, dark cloud mindset, it was so normal to me. It was my comfort zone, because I had been like that for such a long period of time. That was my life, being depressed, being unhappy, being negative, facing like all the negative things in life. That was part of my lifestyle, that I didn't see anything else. So once I had come out of that state, once I had come out of that mindset, once I had come out of that battle that I was fighting in my mind, I'd come to realize where you are. That's what I'm saying to you. When you're faced with a storm, when you're in a season of discouragement, you won't believe that that season is there to stretch you. You won't believe that the only way from that place that you're currently in is up, until you come out of it. And that's what happened to me in that season. So after I had come out of that season, after I had come out of that state of mind that I was in, everything else that I was questioning before, everything else that wasn't clear about my life, about my career, about my friends, my relationships, and me, who I was myself, all of a sudden started having more it became more clearer. It was a lot more clearer in terms of what I wanted to do. It was a lot more clearer in terms of who I was. And it all started with having that, becoming better, being in a better state of mind for me to realize all of these things. So when it comes to being in a state of mind that is not clear, when you're in a bad state of mind, it's going to be a lot harder for you to see other areas of your life clearly, because your main most important part is clouded, right? And I really believe that is why the Bible mentions that you should keep your heart with all diligence, because out of it, I love this Bible verse. The Bible says, keep your heart with all diligence, because out of it springs the issues of life. What this Bible verse means is that you need to keep your mind steady. You need to be in a good state of mind, because when you're not in a good state of mind, when you're in a bad state of mind, everything in your life will feel like it's falling apart. And at first, when I was reading this, I was like, Then I realized that actually when you're in a bad state of mind, everything else will feel like it's falling apart, even though it's not. I remember a couple months ago, I wasn't in the best states of mind. And because I wasn't in a great state of mind, everything in my life felt like it was falling apart. It felt like I was losing my friends. It felt like I was losing myself. It felt like I was losing my job. It felt like I didn't have money. And then one time I found myself reflecting on that Bible verse, actually. And then I was just like, okay, cool. You're not feeling great because of this. And you feel like everything is falling apart. And I started to reflect on the things in my life which were falling apart, and there was nothing that was falling apart. In fact, I was getting promoted. I got a new job role. I was like having all of these things, but because my state of mind was so bad, it was so negative, everything around me felt like it was falling apart. That's why the Bible emphasizes to keep your mind with all diligence, because when your state of mind is good, automatically everything in your life will flow. And I'm not saying that when you're in a good state of mind, everything else works together, like you get the answers, you get the job. No, but there's a sense of like flow. That's the best word I would say. Am I talking flow? No, everything in your life will feel like, okay, cool. Even though I don't have this together, I know I can have it together. I have the strength to have this together. I have the courage to have this together. Your brain is in a much better space that you can even think of creative ideas. You can, function like you have your life back when your mental state is good. But when it's bad, all other parts of your life will feel like you're falling apart, will feel like it's falling apart, and you won't even feel like yourself. You won't even know who you truly are. My biggest question when I was reading this Bible verse was, okay, cool, so the Bible says keep your heart with all diligence because out of it springs the issues of life. But how do I keep my heart with all diligence? What I used to do before, especially there's some things that you may go through in life where it's you're not feeling great, you're not in a good state of mind because of something that happened to you. And there's other times when you're in a bad state of mind because the enemy is trying to deceive you, where the enemy puts all of these false ideas in your head. He puts all of these false imaginations about you, which make you have a bad state of mind. And as somebody who had a very bad state of mind because of something that I went through, one way I have been keeping my mind diligent and keeping my mind sane, keeping my mind healthy, keeping myself in a good mental state is, first of all, understanding that in order for me to heal from whatever I had been through, in order for me to heal from all of the pain, I know I was going to need to be hurt through the process. And I'm not saying hurt in a way that I'm going to have to inflict pain on myself or allow other people to inflict pain on me. What I mean by that was, for me, I'd had to come to a realization that as much as it was healing, the healing was still going to hurt. As much as it was me going on a journey to leave something that I never was, something that I never even had the choice to go through, but I went through, the process to get to that something better was going to hurt, because I was coming from a place I was never supposed to be, going to a place where I know I was always supposed to be. The journey is going to be hard. You're going to be discouraged. It goes without saying. You're going to be discouraged. You're going to feel defeated. You're not going to see a way out sometimes. That is why having God in your life is so important. It is so important, and I wish somebody told me that before, how important God is in my life, because it's because of him that you're able to do so many things. You see, sometimes when you're in a hard situation, when you're struggling, when you're feeling defeated, when you're feeling like you have been put to suffer into the depths of the earth, when you feel like you are in hell, but you're still pushing, but you're still going, but you still manage to do your day-to-day work, you still manage to be a good mother, you still manage to be a good sister, that is evidence that God is with you. Because most of the time, you see, when you're going through something, it's so easy, and I say it's so easy to forget to remember. It's so easy to forget that God is with you. It's so easy to forget that God said that he will never leave you nor forsake you. And when God says that, what God says he will always do. So when you're going through something that changes your whole life, something that changed your whole life, you will get to a point where you forget that God is with you. And I think the evidence that God is with you with your current situation is that you're still keeping going. You're still being a great sister. You're being a great friend. You're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing it great. That's evidence, because you should be defeated right now. You should be destroyed. You should be crying. You should be heartbroken. You should be hurt, and you should throw the towel. You should be defeated. But you're still doing everything that you're doing right now. And that is God showing you that he is with you. It's not saying that your situation is better, because you're still hurt, you're still feeling the pain, but you're still able to keep going. That the enemy hasn't got you completely. He hasn't taken you away, because you're still here, and that's God showing that he is there with you, and he will never leave you, and he will never forsake you. So when it comes to keeping your heart with all diligence, and keeping your mind stayed on, keeping your mind sane, keeping yourself in a good state of mind, for me, as I said, it was getting to that part of an understanding that the process to overcome what I had been through wasn't going to be easy. Well, it wasn't supposed to be easy, because then everybody will be doing it, because everybody will not be struggling with what they'd been through if it was that easy. And I also needed to get to understand that in order for me to actually heal from all of this trauma, I needed to give it all to God to understand, because the way that it had made me to be, who the trauma had shaped me to be, was somebody I never even knew myself to be. And especially since it happened at a very young age, I never got a chance to discover who I was. I never got a chance to know who Pauline was. I didn't know who that girl was. So the stage of being developed, the stage of growing to developing to be a child, was cut out for me. So when I was in a bad state of mind, the first thing I really wanted to know was who I was. Like, people will tell me what they think of me, but no, I need to know who I was for myself. And the only way that I was able to do that was by getting to know who God is, because God made me in his image. God created me in his image. So if I can't see myself the way I need to see myself, I better know that if I look at God, I will know who I am. Okay, and I think that's so powerful in itself, because most of the time when you're struggling with identity, we do everything. When we're going through a mental health crisis, when we're in a bad state of mind, we do everything. We go journaling. I used to write on plates and break them. I used to write stuff and then throw them down a hill, and none of that worked, because it's deeper than that. It's deeper than just the words you write in your journal. I'm not saying that journaling isn't good. Journaling is amazing, but in order to overcome certain things, it's deeper than just releasing and throwing plates down, breaking them like how I was doing. It's deeper than that. And when you're facing situations like that, you better know that God, listen, I could sit here and I could talk to you about God and how in my story as somebody who went through, you see, if God could do what he did in my life, if God could rescue that little girl who was abused by her father, if he could mend my broken heart, if he could mend my broken pieces, if he could make myself see myself the way I see myself and do the things I'm currently doing, if he was able to change my life that much, what makes you think that he won't change your life for you? What makes you think that your situation is so bad? Like, he can deal with that. He can deal with that. I promise you, he really can. Because most of the time we feel like God can do miracles, but he won't do a miracle with your story. You think that God can work in your life, he can work in your neighbor's life, he can work in your sister's life, but your life, it's like, I'm not sure if he can work it. But girl, he can. He really, really, really can. It makes me so emotional. It leaves me so emotional, because it's like, there is so many things that I had prayed to God for. And it wasn't that I was directing my prayers. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know what I was searching for. I didn't know where I was going. But I said, God, I want you to show me what life you had for me. And then God revealed to me, he showed me, he's helping me to live the life that he had for me. And I'm just so grateful, because that is love. God loves me so much that he knew that what I was asking for was nothing. When I prayed for peace, God said, yes, I know you want peace, but girl, what I have for you is way more than the peace. What I have for you is more than just you being happy and in and out of your foggy state. God was like, I want to set you free from that foggy state. God was like, I want to take you away from that dark cloud. I want to change your whole world. And I don't want to just change your whole world today. I don't want to change your whole world at the age of 9. I don't want to change your whole world just when you're 17. God came and he said, I want to change your whole life forever. I want to change your whole life, and I want to change anybody else that's to come after you. And I'm just like, damn, God. And he did that for me. He really did that for me. And listen, he can do it for you too. He can really do it for you too. And I wish somebody could just come here and was there to tell me that God could do it for me, because it was hard believing that God could do it for me. It was hard believing that God could take me out of this bad state of mind. It was hard thinking or knowing that God was able to do exceedingly abundantly above. I know he was powerful. I just didn't know to what extent. But my life is a whole testimony. My life is a whole message. My whole is a whole, like, it just shows you the goodness of God. Oh, one thing about God, I love him so much. I even forgot what I was talking before. I even forgot what I was saying in terms of keeping your heart diligent. But listen, the way God works is in ways that will shock you. All you need to do is, you don't even have to have everything together, because most of the time you may feel like, I need to have everything together. I need to be doing this. I need to be doing that. I need to be in a better mental state. No, don't let them lie to you. You don't have to do any of that. It all starts with saying, do you know what, God? with this situation, with this trauma, with this marriage, with this relationship, with this child. I put my hands up and I give it to you. I give it to you. And God, one thing about God, that he is going to show up and he is going to show out. Yeah, he is going to show up and he is going to show out. And I'm not telling you that because I heard one preacher say that. I'm not telling you that because, no, I'm telling you that because me, myself, I've experienced the glory, the mercy, the love, the blessing, the miracle of God in my life. And I've experienced it in so much abundance. And it's only just the beginning. It's only just the beginning, because the things that God has set me free from, girl, you don't even want to know, but just know that he set me free. Just know that he set me free. And the glory all goes back to him. So, for me, especially since I said because of what I'd been through, the best way that I was able to come out of that dark cloud was by allowing God to intervene, because you see, at the same time, as much as what I'd been through, the enemy has a big part to play in your suffering. The enemy has a very big part, because you see, you may have gone through an experience that you didn't have a choice but to go through, and it made you feel a certain way, and it left you in a dark pit, and it made you feel like your life is foggy, and it made you lose who you are. And the plan of the enemy, the goal of the enemy over your life, is to keep you in that place. You see where the child sexual abuse left me? The enemy wanted to keep me in that place. The enemy wanted to keep me in that place, but little did he know that Jesus has won all the victory. So whatever he was trying to do, I don't know what he was trying to do, but boy, it didn't work. So the enemy is going to, once you're in a certain state, once you have you're faced with a certain experience, his goal is to keep you isolated. His goal is to keep you isolated. Why does he want to keep you isolated? So that he can torment you. He wants to keep you isolated so that he can torture you with his thoughts. And the devil's thoughts are nasty, you know. The devil's thoughts are disgusting. He is a wicked man. He is wicked. So when you go through something, when you go through abuse, when you go through divorce, when you have a difficult child, when you go through a heartbreak, when you go through domestic, when you go through anything, his goal is to keep you isolated so he can feed you his lies. Because, you know, if he can isolate you, it means that you can't see anything. That's why he comes and he plays and he keeps you in that foggy state of mind. Oh, he keeps you in that foggy state of mind. He keeps you in that dark cloud. Because as long as he knows that you're in there, he can use his tactics well. The enemy is so powerful, especially when you don't know who God is. The enemy is so powerful, especially when you don't know what God can do for you. He's so powerful then. But listen, when you get to know who God is for yourself, when you get to know what God can do for you, game over. He's lost some points there, because now you know what you're dealing with. So remember that the battle is in the mind for sure. So if you're struggling to see your life, if you're struggling to see what, you're just in a foggy state of mind, remember that the battle is in the mind. And once you overcome that battle, everything in your life will start looking clearer. And that's why the enemy is always going after your mind. That's why his goal is to always attack the mind, because he knows that once he captures your mind, he can capture you. Because everything is all about the mind. When you're in a good state of mind, everything feels good. That's why that's why you see, I've been seeing TikToks of people leaving the UK to go on holiday, and people have been saying, oh, I thought I was depressed, but all I needed was a holiday. Because you see, it's all in the mind. So as long as the enemy can capture your mind, he can capture your whole life. Okay, as long as the enemy can keep you in an isolated place and destroy you, and with his thoughts, because the Bible does say that he's come to steal your identity, he's come to steal, kill, and destroy. Okay, so you better know that anything the devil's doing in life, he's doing it so that he can finish you. But guess what, girl? All victory belongs to God. He's won all the victory. So you better know that whatever the enemy is trying to do in your life, whatever the enemy is ever going to try to do in your life, Jesus won all the victory. You need to make sure that you don't let the enemy have any victory in your life, because he doesn't. Don't make him feel like he has won anything in your life, because he doesn't. He's a sour loser. That's what he is. So keep your mind stayed on God. Keep your mind stayed on what God says about you, despite what you went through, despite the sexual abuse, despite the marriage breaking down, despite them treating you like you don't deserve anything, keep your mind. The devil's gonna want you to focus on those bad things. The devil wanted me to focus so much on the pain and the hurt and how I'd felt because of the abuse. He wanted me to stay in that place. He wanted me to be so angry about what happened to me. He wanted me to stay in that place. He wanted me to stay in the place where I didn't know who I was. He wanted me to stay in a place where I didn't see my value, so I let people walk all over me. He wanted me to stay in that place because he knows that when I'm in that place, he can use me well. He can use me well. He can stop me from doing what I'm supposed to be doing. He can stop you being who God called us. I'm even losing my words. He can even stop you being who God has called you to be, and that is a mission. But you see, when you know the enemy is going to try you, but as long as you know what God says about you, you're good. Because when the enemy tries to tell you that you're not worthy or you're alone, that's not true, because God says that he would never leave me nor forsake me. He would leave the 99 to go get me. So what has the enemy's thoughts over your life have? They have no power over your life. The only way that they will have power over your life is if that's all you know. If the only things you know is what the enemy says about you, whatever he says is gonna have so much power in your life because that's all you know. But when you see what the enemy is trying to say about you, and then you also know what God says about you, will realize that his thoughts towards you hold no weight. They hold nothing. So when the enemy is breathing down your neck, he's trying to destroy you, he's trying to defeat you, you better tell him, listen, you're trying to say this about me, but listen, you've not heard what God says about me? You've not heard what God... You're telling me that I'm going to be stuck here forever, but you've not heard that You've not heard that I'm a new creation? You've not heard that I'm made in God's image? You've not heard any of that? So you need to really know what God says about you. You need to know what God says about your life. Because I promise you, words have so much power. Words have so much power. So when you're faced with something negative, a negative thought, a negative doubt you may have, you better know that speaking life into those negative thoughts, they will go. That's what I'm saying. As much as the enemy is, once you get to know the word of God, the enemy doesn't leave you just because you know the word. He will try you full on force. Okay, but just know that as long as the enemy is trying you, as long as you know what God says about you, as long as you know what God says about your experience, okay, when you feel alone and you don't feel like you're worthy of being loved, just let the enemy know that, listen, God so loved the world that he trust me. So don't, as much as the enemy is going to come over your life, know what God says about you. Know what God says about your life. Know and remind yourself, not just know it, but also believe it. Know that God says that you're beautiful, that you're made in his image, that he would know that all of these things, know that your past doesn't define you, and know them well, because that's where the real truth is. And the other thing, in terms of overcoming, coming out of a state of mind, it's honestly so important to talk to other people about what you're going through. And I know this is really hard, especially if you're somebody who hates being vulnerable to other people. This is a very challenging thing to do, especially if you're somebody who has opened up to people before and they've just thrown it all in your face. You've opened up to somebody, you've trusted somebody with something very important to you, and they've used it as gossip. You see, when you open up to people about something that was serious to you, something that hurt you, and they do something like that, it makes you question other people. It makes you think, okay, cool, I will never be able to open up to somebody again, because when I told my best friend, she used it against me. When I told my husband, he went and told his, and now I'm the gossip of the church. So when you get out of your comfort zone, because being vulnerable is hard. Being vulnerable is hard because you're letting somebody into a part of you that no one should. You're letting somebody into a very soft, sensitive part of you. Okay, and it's like you're being vulnerable, so that in itself is hard. So I would say opening up to somebody. And honestly, if you have to think twice about opening up to somebody about what you're going through, about the state of mind that you're in, then you shouldn't open up to that person. Because when it's somebody that you can trust, you can know that you will trust that person. You won't be something like, maybe I shouldn't tell her. Listen, if you're having, there's certain circumstances where it's like, okay, cool, I can't open up to this person because I'm scared of vulnerability. Woo! I might have to start speaking in Swahili in a second. You know, like, there's certain parts where you may be scared to be vulnerable because you're scared to be vulnerable, not because you don't trust that person. But there's certain parts when you're scared to be vulnerable because the person that you want to be vulnerable to is somebody who you know, or there's something about that person, there's something about them that is like, if I tell them this, they're going to be sitting on some bad piece of information, they could use it against me. So open up to somebody that you trust, open up to somebody that you know will take your what you're telling them well, somebody who won't judge you, somebody who will look down upon you. Because I promise you, when you open up to somebody once and they throw it in your face, it stays, because it's like, nah, I can't trust nobody else. I can't open up to nobody else. And as somebody myself who struggles with being vulnerable, especially, I find that I'm able to be more vulnerable easily when it's somebody that I know, do you know what, I can really trust him. Like, I can really trust her. It makes it a lot easier, because vulnerability in itself is very scary, and I think it just makes it a lot better, a lot easier when you're doing it to somebody that you completely trust. Another thing I would say, in terms of keeping a good state of mind, is giving yourself some grace. Honestly, giving yourself some grace. Don't beat yourself up for feeling certain emotions. Don't beat yourself up for having certain feelings, because sometimes the feelings you have are valid, especially if you've been through something. Your feelings are always valid, especially if you've been through something and you feel a certain way towards yourself, you feel a certain way towards somebody, you see life in a specific way. Yes, your feelings are valid. Don't try to invalidate your feelings by feeling like I shouldn't be in a bad state, because it's part of the process. It's part of the process. The process includes going through the valleys, going to the mountains, going to the valleys, going to the mountains, and finally getting up to the mountain. That is the process. So don't beat yourself up for feeling the way you do. Don't beat yourself up for looking at the world in such a negative view, but also have hope. Have faith that you won't be in that state forever. Have understanding that even though you see yourself that way right now, even though you see the world that way now, even if you see your family that way now, even if you have a very bad outlook on who men are right now, first of all, it doesn't mean that everybody is like that. And it doesn't mean that the world is the way you're seeing it, because there's bad things in life, of course, but there's also good things in life. There's good men, there's also bad men, do you know? So it's not always like, okay, cool, yep, the world is horrible, everything in the world is bad. No, because there's beauty to life. There's beauty. There's so many different things. So give yourself some grace, as I said, and understand that just because you have a certain thought, just because you have a certain feeling, doesn't mean that it's true. Because there's a big difference between thoughts and facts. The thoughts can be because of what you experience, because of what the enemy is trying to plant in your head. Then you've got facts. Facts is what God says about you, the real core truth about you. So understand that even though you have a thought that tells you you're not valuable, even though you have a thought that tells you your past will always define you, that thought is there, but it's not true. It can't be true, because your past will never define you, because the way you are even made, the way God even created you, is enough to prove that your past will never define you, because the brain is malleable. Simple as. So when you have these thoughts, remind yourself that just because they're there doesn't necessarily make them true. And I also know that I say this a lot of times, and I say it because I strongly believe it. Like, I know it's cliche and you've heard it a lot of times, but honestly, even though you're in a current foggy state, or you may have been in a foggy state before, it actually gets better. Like, it really, really does get better. And I know it's like, It's not something that happens overnight, hence why some people may not actually believe that it gets better, because some people get caught up in the process, some people give up in the process, and some people feel so defeated, or their situation is just so overwhelming. They've been isolated so much, the enemy is hidden them away so much, to the point where like they can't believe that it gets better because they are in such a bad place. But I'm here to remind you once again that it very much gets better. I remember a few years ago, actually, my life had looked so bad. I was, oh my gosh, like when I think about it, I have to stop, because I'm like, how did I even get here? How did I even become this girl speaking to Discover Her Girly Pops? Like, you know, I get so confused, because it's like, so it is possible. So what people did used to say, even though it sounded so cliche, it is true, right? That's why I preach this as well. That's why I have to say it again and again and again, because me being somebody who didn't think that it was ever going to get better, as I always say, I thought that my experience was going to either get really better or it was going to completely destroy me. And I leaned more to the part of that it was going to destroy me more, because it was already destroying me. So I didn't doubt that my experience was going to destroy me. I believed more that it was going to destroy me than I believed it was going to get better. And I'm saying to you that it gets better with the simple fact that me personally, my own personal story, I always like hearing other people's personal stories, because they're so encouraging. Even though you don't see your life in the way that their life is, or their life has turned out, it's encouraging, because it shows you that, listen, if they went through that and they aren't in that place anymore, that means that it's the same for me, okay? Because God loves you so much, and if he could work miracles in my life, if he could change my life literally upside downside up, he can most definitely do it for you. So as you go on this journey, remember that just because a thought, I have to say this again, just because a thought is there doesn't mean that it's true. Just because somebody tells you something, just because somebody treats you a specific way, does not mean that you deserve to be treated that way, okay? And remember that when you're not in a good state of mind, other parts of your life are going to feel like a mess. Everything in your life is going to feel like it's falling apart. That's why I'll tell you that if you're in a bad state of mind and you don't see your life and you don't see yourself, don't try to fix those little branches. So think of it like this is a tree. So you've got the roots, which is basically why the tree is even there, okay? And then you've got the different branches. So you know that the root is not great. You know the root, you know everything about the root is not good. It's not healthy. And because of that, the branches or the leaves or whatever that comes out of that is going to look bad. It's going to be bad. Instead of you trying to focus on dealing with the branches, instead of you trying to focus on the leaves, focus on the roots, because once that part is sorted, everything else will be patterned. Everything else will be great. So understand that when you're in that foggy state of mind, your career isn't something that you think, okay, cool, if I sort out my career, then no, my foggy state will be gone. No, because it starts with you dealing with that foggy state of mind. It starts with you dealing with that dark cloud. It starts with you letting God and understanding that he will change, and he will help you see the beauty in life. It starts with you doing that, and once you do that, I promise you, so many other areas of your life will start flowing. That's the word I keep on using. So many other parts of your life will keep flowing, because that's how it generally works. So first of all, take it easy on yourself. Give yourself some grace. Honestly, don't be scared to talk to other people. I know it's scary to talk to other people about how you feel. That's why you got to find at least one person that you trust, because talking to other people literally does lift that burden off your shoulder. Like, you feel good after. And even though I'm not somebody who really speaks to people about how I feel, because I don't genuinely believe, I know I have this toxic thing where I don't really talk to other people about anything that I go through most of the time, because I see it as if I know that you won't help me deal with it, then what's the point of me telling you? But now I've gotten to a part where I've come to realize that not every scenario, not every problem actually needs a solution there and then. Talking to somebody can lift the weight off your shoulders. Talking to somebody can make you feel a bit lighter, because at least you get encouraging words from somebody. Somebody may share an experience that they went through, or somebody might say, girl, me too, I'm going through that. And it's like that feeling that you get is so relieving in itself. It doesn't take the problem away, but it does help you to feel better. So don't be scared to talk to other people, even if they don't have a solution for your problems. And most importantly, don't forget to talk to God, because he's a problem solver. As much as you can talk to me about your problem, there's only so much I can do sometimes. There's only so many words I can say to you about what happened and how to be. No, there's only so much I can do. But you see, with God, he's infinity. Like, he can give you so many different answers. He's problem solver. So talk to him and understand that it does get better, and you are doing great so far. Honestly, how far you've come, give yourself some grace for that, because you are doing amazing. The fact that you're even able to do so many different things, you're able to go to school, you're able to carry out your family, you're able to be a great sister, a great mother. The fact that you're able to do certain things right now, the fact that you're still able to carry a normal day-to-day life, is good. Give yourself some grace. You're doing good so far, even though you're not in a state that you would like yourself to be in. You are doing great so far. So I pray that as you continue to go on this journey, that you understand that whatever state that you're in, you won't be there forever. The procedure, the process is going to hurt to come from that place, but I promise you're not going to be there forever. And as I said, I'm only able to say this because I'm not where I used to be, but know that once you cross the river, once you get to the other side, you will be able to tell other people this, because you're not where you used to be. So yeah, that's all I've got to say to you today. It was actually really nice speaking to you again. I hope to see you on the next pod. I did say that in every episode I'm gonna give you a journal prompt for the end. I forgot to do that for my last video, but yes, I remembered to do it for this video. So the journal prompt for today is, so actually I was gonna give just one journal prompt, but I think it's only right to give two. So the first one is, what are the positive things that are happening in your life right now? And the second one is, what specific emotions did you feel today, and why is it important for you to be aware of these specific emotions that you have? So yeah, that's the journal prompt. Comment down below or send me a DM on what you reflected on this journal prompt. And honestly, it's going to be so nice to hear from you, talk to you on my social medias as well. So I hope to see you on the next pod, Discover Her pod. Okay, and yeah, take care of yourself. I love you.